Why some immigrants are giving up on New Zealand. New Zealand has long been celebrated as one of the most peaceful and beautiful countries in the world. With its clean environment, friendly communities, and laid-back lifestyle, it has attracted thousands of immigrants every year. But today, a different story is quietly unfolding. In the 12 months to November 2024, a record 127,800 people left New Zealand, according to official figures, a 28% increase from the previous year. Of these, about 72,900 were New Zealand citizens, and 56% of them moved to Australia. Although the country still recorded net positive migration at plus 30,600, that number was sharply down from plus 135,700 just a year earlier. So why are some immigrants giving up on New Zealand? Let's explore the realities of life in New Zealand for immigrants and what's behind this growing trend. The rising cost of living in New Zealand. One of the main reasons immigrants are reconsidering their future in New Zealand is the high cost of living. Housing is especially challenging. In the year ending June 2024, New Zealand households spent 22.20 New Zealand dollars per 100 New Zealand dollars of disposable income on housing. Even more striking, almost 20% of all households and 31% of low-income households spent more than 40% of their income on housing, surpassing the generally accepted affordability threshold. Mortgage costs have surged. Weekly mortgage payments averaged 658 New Zealand dollars in 2024, up from 605 New Zealand dollars in 2023. According to Statistics New Zealand, mortgage interest payments rose 35.8% over the year, pushing many families into what's classified as material hardship, now affecting around 9.4% of households. Rental prices have also remained high. In cities like Auckland and Wellington, renting a basic one-bedroom flat can easily cost over 600 New Zealand dollars per week. Add in other living expenses like groceries, fuel, electricity, and insurance, and the financial burden quickly becomes unsustainable for many. For immigrants who came expecting a better life, the reality is often a stark contrast to their hopes. Career barriers and underemployment. New Zealand's labor market does offer opportunities, especially in trades, aged care, agriculture, and health. But for skilled migrants in sectors like law, IT, engineering, academia, or finance, breaking into their field can be difficult. One common challenge is qualification recognition. Although this varies by profession, many immigrants report needing to undergo additional certifications, retraining, or being told their degrees are not up to local standards. Another widely discussed issue is the preference for New Zealand work experience. While this isn't official policy, it's often cited by employers as a requirement. This leaves many skilled immigrants struggling to get interviews or fair consideration for roles, despite years of international experience. The result is underemployment. Engineers take warehouse jobs. Doctors drive taxis. Teachers work in call centers. It's not just financially frustrating, it's demoralizing. Although there's no national data set on underemployment among immigrants, the consistent accounts shared across community groups, forums, and migration surveys make it clear that this is a widespread issue. Uncertainty around immigration pathways. New Zealand's immigration system is considered well-managed globally, but for many immigrants, the path from temporary to permanent residency can feel long, expensive, and unpredictable. While the government has made efforts to improve processing times, median visa approval times dropped from 14 to 9 working days in 2024. Many applicants still face months of delays, especially during the peak intake periods of May through August. Visa application costs are another burden. Medical checks, English tests, legal support, and document processing fees can add up to thousands of dollars per person. Moreover, the eligibility criteria for permanent residency are subject to change. Updates to occupation shortage lists or visa rules sometimes occur with little notice, leaving long-term temporary visa holders uncertain about their future. This lack of transparency and consistency has led many migrants, particularly families, to explore more stable systems in places like Canada or Germany. Public health care and infrastructure under pressure. New Zealand's public services are under increasing strain, and this has impacted both citizens and immigrants alike. According to the New Zealand Medical Journal and RNZ, the country's healthcare system currently faces a shortage of around 1,700 doctors and 4,800 nurses. In 2023, more than 25% of all nursing shifts went understaffed, leading to longer wait times for patients and delays in accessing basic care. These challenges are particularly concerning for families with small children, pregnant women, or elderly relatives, groups that depend on timely and accessible care. The education system is also facing growing pains. While most public schools are inclusive and community-focused, school quality can vary significantly between neighborhoods. High-performing schools are often located in wealthier zones, creating access barriers for lower-income immigrant families. Public transportation infrastructure is improving in cities like Auckland and Wellington, but in many towns and suburban areas, owning a car is essential. With fuel prices and vehicle costs rising, that's another layer of economic pressure on newly arrived residents. Social integration and emotional challenges. While many immigrants praise the politeness and hospitality of New Zealanders, forming deep social connections is not always easy. New Zealand's culture is friendly but reserved. In small towns or rural communities, social circles can be tight-knit, making it difficult for newcomers to build close friendships. This isn't due to hostility, it's often just a matter of cultural rhythm and trust, taking time to build. Language barriers are rarely the issue. Instead, it's the subtle nuances of Kiwi humor, communication style, and social expectations that can make immigrants feel left out or disconnected. There's also the challenge of geographic isolation. International travel to and from New Zealand is expensive and time-consuming. For immigrants with close ties to family abroad, this can result in long periods of emotional separation and limited support systems. Many immigrants have shared in forums and interviews that despite living in New Zealand for years, they still feel like outsiders. Over time, this emotional disconnect contributes to the decision to leave. Education and future prospects for children. Families often choose New Zealand to give their children a better life. But while schools are generally safe and supportive, the system doesn't always align with international expectations for academic depth or diversity of opportunities. Access to top schools depends heavily on geographic location. Enrollment zones restrict entry, and the best schools tend to be in areas with the highest housing costs. Parents who can't afford to live in those areas find themselves with limited options. At the university level, international student fees are high, and many immigrant families, particularly those on temporary visas, must pay these rates even for primary or secondary schooling. Scholarship options are limited, and financial support is not as accessible as in countries like Canada or Germany. In the long run, career prospects for young people in New Zealand can feel narrow. The country's economy is relatively small, and opportunities in specialized or high-growth industries can be limited. For parents who want their children to have access to global-level education and employment, relocating becomes a serious consideration. Why some immigrants are giving up on New Zealand. Leaving New Zealand isn't a decision made lightly. Most immigrants come with optimism, skills, and a desire to contribute. But when confronted with rising costs, job frustration, immigration uncertainty, public service pressure, and emotional isolation, It's understandable that some eventually choose to go. The decision isn't necessarily about regret, it's about fit. New Zealand is an incredible country in many ways, but for those who need more affordable living, more diverse career options, or better integration support, it might not feel like the right long-term home. In a world where talent is mobile and opportunities are global, immigrants are increasingly making informed choices. Platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and migrant community pages are full of real stories from people who've experienced both the highs and lows of life in New Zealand. What can New Zealand do to retain immigrants? If New Zealand wants to maintain its image as a top global destination, it may need to rethink how it supports its migrant population. Key strategies could include strengthening public services, particularly healthcare and education, making immigration policies clearer and more stable, recognizing foreign qualifications more efficiently, encouraging workplace diversity and inclusive hiring practices, investing in regional support services to improve social integration. By addressing these issues, New Zealand can improve not only immigrant retention, but also long-term community resilience. Some immigrants are choosing to leave New Zealand not out of anger, but reflection. Rising costs, limited career growth, and slow integration make staying difficult. New Zealand remains a beautiful nation, but to retain talent, it must evolve into a place where people feel supported, included, and secure. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.